working in finance is a lot of long hours. So to do that Monday through Friday and then run out of the office a couple of nights a week to make it to school and then have to go back to New York on the weekends to do it. I don't think I was balanced at all. Like my friends were complaining. They're like, we'll never see you. And I'm like, well, if you want to come over and help with homework, then come on through. But for me, it was a temporary sacrifice. And if someone could not understand that and couldn't understand that this is something that I was doing for myself because this was something that was important to me, then they weren't really a part of my tribe.
Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 191. Today, our guest is Beth Diana Smith, owner and principal designer of Beth Diana Smith Interior Design. And we're going to be talking about what do you do when you want to trade in your old dream for a new dream? What do you do when you're doing well in your corporate career, but have an itch to try something completely new? So Beth is going to dive into her personal pivot story and how she went from being a successful corporate accountant to following her strengths and passions and building a new career in interior design. She outlines everything that made this pivot successful, from learning the industry, building relationships and collaborating, goal setting, and more. Beth is also going to open up about the challenges she has encountered along the way and give us tips on why being purposeful with design is important for all dream drivers. So we're going to be doing a book giveaway this week, and I'm giving away a copy of The Autobiography of Gucci Mane. Since we're talking about the idea of pivots in our career, pivots in our life, whatever, I really enjoyed this read. Even if you don't necessarily listen to Gucci's music or like what he stands for or even associate with him in any way, I still think it's interesting and fascinating to read how somebody was able to go through different stages in their life. You'll learn about his early life and you learn about how he became who he is. It's a very interesting read. So if you want to enter to win the book, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. That's dreamsanddrive.com/win. Lastly, please continue to share on social media. I love it when you guys are reposting your episodes that you're listening to on Instagram stories, Twitter, Facebook. We are Dreams and Drive across the board. And be sure to subscribe to us wherever you're listening, whether it be Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever. Subscribe so that you get notifications every time we have a new episode. All right, let's hear from Beth. I am so excited to have you on. I think we met in person, I want to say it was earlier this year at actually a former guest of the show, Ashley Langston, her launch party for her I Am Icon event. Remember?
Yes, absolutely. That's how I first found out about Dreams and Drive. And then I went and checked it out. I was like, oh, this is actually really awesome. Let me.
And we have a mutual. So your best friend, Kimberly, she works at Princeton Career Services. And I've met Kimberly before through Career Services events. So it's just like, there's a whole bunch of connections there.
Yes, it's a small world.
It really is a small world. So I like to start the podcast going back in time and really reflecting on who we were as children. But I'm going to switch up the question a little bit here. Okay. So as a child, Beth, what would you say your dream was? Like when you thought of future Beth, what came to mind? If you can remember.
Funny enough, that's actually on video.
Really?
Yes. Apparently in 5th grade, I said that I dreamt of being an accountant, which is very strange.
Have you seen this video? Have you verified it?
I kind of remember it. One of my childhood friends has it, and we still kind of talk about it. We joke about it because I ended up being in finance and accounting. So it's just kind of funny because that's exactly what I ended up pursuing.
So as a kid, were you very good with money and numbers? Were you that kid who would budget things and all that?
I was very organized in a very strange way for a child. And I was always really, really good at things at math. And I just kind of liked numbers. But I was definitely one of these kids walking around with OCD, very organized, organizing my toy box, organizing my dresser. I would clean my room clockwise. I would say I was a strange kid in that way.
Okay. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Montclair, right here in Jersey.
Oh, really? Jersey girls?
Yes.
You know, I love Jersey. So growing up in Montclair, so you went to Montclair High?
I did.
Going into college then, was the plan to be an accountant?
Yes. Sad but true.
Okay, well, it's not sad. I feel like it's like at least you were making the dream happen, right? You knew what you wanted. So how did that whole career pan out? How did you realize these dreams of wanting to pursue finance?
I want to say it wasn't, I think I followed what was comfortable. Because I figured, very, very ignorantly, like, I'm good at math, I'll go into accounting, right? And I just thought that it just made sense. It was the safe career. I never thought about doing anything creative, and I never considered myself a creative. I just thought I just wanted a good job with a secure paycheck that would just help me secure all the bags. And that was just kind of what my focus was. I never really thought about anything kind of outside the box. I'm also from a West Indian family who just kind of believe that, you do the safe thing.
Mm-hmm. What country?
Grenada.
Okay.
Yep. So it was just kind of like, be a nurse, be a lawyer, do something safe. And that's just kind of what I followed. But luckily, I just kind of grew out of that because that's not what I was meant to be doing.
Okay, so we got to unpack that a little bit, right? So you went to Seton Hall. You for your master's, or is it for your undergraduate? I just want to make sure I get that right.
Both.
Okay.
So at Seton Hall, I got a bachelor's in business, and then I got a master's in accounting.
All right. So you were accounting for real, right?
Yes, I was.
So I know you ended up so you said you had these dreams, you wanted to secure the bag, and you did. So what was it like working in corporate America as a finance analyst? Like, did you feel like you were fulfilled? Although this was something you had wanted from when you were a child, when you got into it, were you loving it?
Love would definitely be a strong word.
Okay.
I would say that I was at a few companies, right? So I went from this company that used to be very big in Parsippany called Sendent, and then I went to Morgan Stanley, and then I went to Johnson & Johnson, then I went to Viacom. So I enjoyed the growth in my career and watching the money in the bank grow, and loved waiting for that direct deposit to hit.
But what didn't you enjoy about it?
I did enjoy the politics of corporate. I definitely worked with some great people, so it made it easy. So in a sense, like, we'd be miserable together.
Friends of misery, friends in misery.
Yes. And I enjoyed learning. I really, like, throughout my career, I gravitated away from accounting and went more into finance. So I liked the strategy that kind of went along with it, like creating these presentations, strategically working with my business partners to figure out what happened and what we could forecast out and what those next steps would be and what would help our company grow, what would be the best strategic decision. So I just realized, like, I just like strategy. I just like figuring things out. And that's probably also why I gravitated to accounting. Like, I have to admit, like, I still use Excel spreadsheets. I enjoy the act of reconciliation in Excel. Like, I find it relaxing.
Okay, that's different.
It's
Excel reconciliation parties, is that? Let's have a reconciliation party.
I'd be at that party by myself. But I realized, like, it's just naturally how my mind worked. I think that's why I gravitated to that type of career.
Okay.
But there are definitely certain aspects of corporate that I'll always love, especially like things like 401k and great health and benefits. And I was blessed in the sense that because I worked with so many great people, they pushed me outside of my comfort zone as well. Like, I heard a lot throughout my career, like, you do not have the personality for an accounting or finance person. And I never really understood what that meant until kind of later.
Like, in a good way or bad way? Like, you're meant for more than this? Is that what they meant?
More so, like, I think when people think of, like, accounting and finance people, like, they're very quiet, they're very laid back. I'm the exact opposite. Like, I can be very outgoing and I can be very, very loud. So a lot of times, like, in my corporate life, you could literally hear my voice throughout the office, like cackling it up with my coworker. So they kind of meant it that way. And I just thought, oh, well, there's not one particular type of finance and accounting person. But it just helped me also realize, like, there was something more that my specific personality type wanted as well.
During this time in your life, what kind of personal strengths do you feel like you were developing? Like things you could confidently say, I rock when it comes to XXX. Like what was that?
Oh, I am a master planner.
Okay.
And really, really good at trying to make a budget work. And I think those two things really helps me be successful in finance. And it's definitely a blessing when it comes to my business.
I love how strongly and how confidently you said that, right? I am a master planner. Did it take you time to get to that space where you were able to say, yep, I am a master at this?
I think it was kind of the circumstance. It took like just kind of my natural personality from a kid of being very organized. And then when I got into college, things like my sophomore, junior year, my mom became sick.
Ooh, okay.
So the time I graduated with my master's, like I was literally a homeowner and taking care of a sick parent. I think with all those things, like being so young and having to figure out, well, these are the doctors we have to see, and these are the medications, and here's what has to happen, and trying to also grow my career. I just literally I would carry around this huge planner from the company was Franklin Covey, and that thing was always in my purse, and it helped me organize like what I need to do for myself, what I need to do for my mother, and then what I need to do for my job day to day. And it just kind of evolved from that. I just kind of got better at it, better at it, and better at it. It helped me manage all the details that had to happen before something, during and a quote unquote event, or even after.
So where did interior design start to bloom? Because, I'm not hearing anything creative. You're not really talking about anything, that comes to design or anything. So where did this part of yourself come into fruition?
So that was during my Viacom years. So Once I got to Viacom, I went in ridiculously close to six figures, right? So after a couple years, I was pulling in a six-figure salary, and it was before I was 30. So I bought my home when I was 22, 23. And then I was just like, okay, well, I can get rid of all this IKEA furniture and actually start to do things. Because literally everything was from IKEA. And throughout that process of like wanting to like swap out the furniture, like in my mom's room, in my room, do things in my living room and get rid of my big burgundy sofa, like somehow I kind of fell in love with interior design. I actually started off as a professional organizer, because then again, I'm going to what my personality just felt like I realized I was always doing the safe thing when it came to my career. And then I just realized, like, I don't know if I can retire doing this. So there was all these things that would happen at the same time. I was getting enough, making enough to redo my home the way that I wanted, and really reflected me at my age. I was at Viacom, and I was, seeing all these things happen that I didn't particularly care for. And I kept on thinking, like, I don't know if I can retire doing this. Like, these people are so miserable all the time. It's a little exhausting. And I just think everything kind of happened around the same time. And it just became a blessing, because I don't know if things would have happened any other way if I would have pursued interior design, because I really enjoyed that regular salary. It's a hard thing to walk away from. And it took me a long time and a lot of thought to be able to make that decision.
Listen, so I quit my job in August of 2018, and it took me, I'm a lot earlier like in my career, so I haven't been in the workforce as long as you have, but even at this point in my career, it's like, it took me, I want to say, okay, I shouldn't probably admit this, my former coworkers may be listening, but I probably wanted to quit like a year in, right? And I spent 3 years there, or was it 3 years? No, almost 4 years. Wait, no, I don't remember. Almost 4 years. And it's funny because now that I've quit, I realize that, wow, I could have done that a lot sooner, right? Because you start creating all these stories about what's going to happen, and like, will it be the right thing? Will it be the wrong thing? And all this stuff, right?
Yep.
So I know at this time, though, you also did decide to go back to school for interior design.
I did, because I have this very technical aspect of myself. And I like to, whenever I'm taking over something new, I want to research, and I like technical education. I wanted to learn everything. So even though I was still working at Viacom, I had already launched my business. I was like, I want to go back to school and learn all the technical things, from like the history of design to how someone with a formal education would approach it. So I was going to school nights and weekends for about 4 years. And I tell you, I was exhausted. Oh my God, I was exhausted.
I was just going to say, how were you able to just keep keep your sanity or just stay balanced? Because that's a lot. Nights and weekends for 4 years?
I don't think I maintained my sanity well. Cause working in finance is a lot of long hours. So to do that Monday through Friday and then run out of the office a couple nights a week to make it to school, that was also in New York, and then have to go back to New York on the weekends to do it. I don't think I was balanced at all. Like, my friends were complaining. They're like, we'll never see you. And I'm like, well, if you want to come over and help with homework, then come on through. But for me, it was a temporary sacrifice. And if someone could not understand that and couldn't understand that this is something that I was doing for myself because this was something that was important to me, then they weren't really a part of my tribe.
Looking back at it, was it worth it?
It was 1,000% worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it helped me understand. So much quicker than a designer who maybe had not gone. I feel more comfortable once I feel like I know all the techie things. Mm-hmm. Then it almost gives me a sigh of relief. So everything else is like, oh, okay, well, I'll just figure everything else out. And it just prepared me to help solve all these design problems that I would necessarily never have thought of. But there's also, there's a lot of things that school does not teach you.
It's that experience will always be the best teacher. But I love that you said that it was worth it, just because I think sometimes we as creatives, we sometimes shy away from making that investment, because this wasn't a free ride, right? Like, you had to invest to go to school. And I also think right now in the creative fields, there's this idea that you can learn everything from YouTube, or you can learn everything from Google, right? Like, you could have been an interior designer. Like, why is it so important that you invest in your craft, like for other creatives?
I feel like there's always going to be someone new. There's always going to be a new thing. If you actually care about what you're doing, you're going to want to continuously learn about it. You're going to want to surround yourself with it, and you're going to want to try to be your best. And the key is your best and not someone else's version of your best.
Yep. And that's hard though, because I feel like a lot of times we're judging ourselves based upon other people's versions, right?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like there's this quote I always come across, and that is that comparison is like the thief of joy. And it's so, so true. Like, if everyone just stayed in their own lane and minded their good Black business and did what they're supposed to do, then they would just be happier.
How did you start getting your first clients? I know I was listening to your episode on Nicaila Matthews. I love Nicaila, Side Hustle Pro. And like, one of your first clients, you only charged her $350 and you did a year of work. Like, talk to us about some of the struggles of just launching and getting the business started.
That's where school doesn't teach you everything, because school teaches you the how to do design. It does not teach you how to price. It does not teach you how to run a business. So when it came to things like pricing for, what I would look at corporate wise, I had to kind of shift my mindset, because I wasn't, a multi-billion-dollar company with, a ton of backing. I had to approach it differently, and I wasn't in the beginning. I almost didn't care about the money, because it was like, at the end of the day, this is not going to pay my bills. It's this Viacom check that's going to pay my bills. Mm-hmm. So that was just, to be quite frank, it was just ignorance on my side. It eventually just came to a point where I didn't realize how little I had charged until a few years later, when I thought about, I feel like there was a conference or something that I went to and they were talking about pricing. They said, there are multiple ways to do it. You can charge hourly, you can charge a flat fee, you can charge a percent of budget, or a combination of any of those things. And then that kind of triggered something in my head. I said, wait a minute, if I charge this girl like $350 and I and I allow this project to like drag out for like a year, oh my God, I literally paid myself nothing. It was almost like I wasted my own time. Like the client she's really, really sweet. She was a really nice person. I don't regret the project at all. It was good experience because it taught me a lesson.
And those lessons, I feel like it taught you a lesson and hopefully you learned the lesson, right?
We would hope, right? So I still have to check myself into charging what I'm worth, because I will get sucked in by a nice client. Like if the person is nice and like non-douchey and just, isn't constantly like on my back or acting like they're a designer too, then it just makes it gives you like almost creative freedom because you don't have someone stressing you out to do what you love. So sometimes like I will let those types of clients slide even when they don't necessarily know it. Like I could have easily got them a chair and sold it to them for $2,000, but I may not do that. I may only sell it to them for $1,000 and then use that additional $1,000 to get them more for their space.
I've always wondered about that. Like when it comes to interior design, how does that whole process work, right? It's interesting because I forgot to mention this. So when I was younger, one of my like pastimes, I was a weird child. Like I would get these phases where I would go through these phases. And one of my phases was, do you remember they used to have CD-ROMs where you could design houses? Like you could create like floor plans.
Yes.
And you could design the furniture, and you could 3D render it and like, look through your house that you made. That was my thing. Like I loved just designing houses and just, 3D rendering it and picking out the furniture and the type of windows and all that stuff. But can you just walk us through how a typical project for an interior design project works?
I would say First, I'll say that every project is a little different,
okay.
Only because you are catering it specifically to your client and what their project needs. But I would say high level, what you can kind of expect is that, your client reaches out to you, you have a consultation. Like my consultation, for instance, is 2 hours. And I use that time to not only try to understand and get to know as much as I can about the client themselves, I'm also clearly there to learn more about the project. Because you want to make sure that however you approach the design is reflective of how they live and of their personality. Mm-hmm. So it's always trying to understand like what their needs are and why they're looking to do something. And kind of like once you kind of gather all information and they're okay to proceed with the project, then I'll kind of come back to my little workroom and I will start to work on the design. And then once I get to a place where I feel like, okay, well, here's what here's what the floor plan will look like. Here's what all the finishes will be. Here's what the primary furniture pieces will look like. Here's the things that I think will look amazing custom. I will go back and literally walk the client through a presentation, right? Very similar to what I did in finance, which is a skill that has kind of helped me in this aspect as well. And once they agree to do everything, keep in mind that I'm also, during the consultation, we've also agreed upon a budget.
Okay.
And if that budget is good to go, then that's what's in the presentation. If I feel like the budget that we discuss will not get them the best design, I'll also notate that in the presentation. And that's when I will flip into the appendix and say, but if you invested this much more, then this is actually what it could look like. And I've actually I've had this happen quite a few times. And most recently, I had a client who did not want to spend more than like $25,000. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of explained to him the process and why that wasn't going to be possible. And then other things for us to look at. And now I think we're almost at like 80.
Oh my gosh. Ooh, so here's a question for you. Do you have like a target client avatar? Like, do you have a ideal client that you like to work with? And then how do you weed out people that just wouldn't fit with the budgets that you normally work with?
It becomes a bit of a mixed bag. I would say one of the reasons why I do now a paid consultation versus a free consultation goes along with your question as well. And that's because a lot of time people will just try to get like free information out of you. So that's why I'm just like, I'm not doing free consultations anymore because it just doesn't make sense. And I've had someone outright admit that to me, that's what they do. And I'm like, well, I'm not the designer for you because you're trying to take advantage of me and that's not okay. But during that consultation, I will literally try to gauge whether or not we are going to be a good fit. And I do go into the consultation telling the client, almost using this as an interview process. Like, you have to make sure that you feel like I'm a good fit for you as well. Because you get to learn a lot about each other. Like, I'm in your home when you're sometimes not there. I may see your underwear drawer. So we have to trust each other, and we have to make sure that we have a good relationship, and we have to be honest. I would say honesty and communication is the two things that I push the hardest with the client, because if you don't love it or you don't like it, you have to tell me that so I can adjust it. And I'm probably overly honest with my clients. And they're like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, no, throw that away.
With their old furniture?
Sometimes old, sometimes like something that they may come across and like, Beth, what do you think? I'm like, nope. Throw it away.
How important are contracts in interior design business and within like your own experience as well?
Oh, very. After every client, I always kind of sit back, look at what lessons I've learned, and I make any changes or updates to my contract.
Any crazy client contract updates you've had to make?
I would say the craziest is where I had to add in a harassment clause. And it wasn't even that the client was harassing me. It was that the contractor felt like he was being harassed.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And based on a conversation I had with him, and I'm just like, this grown man is so uncomfortable by this woman's behavior. I was just like, this isn't okay. Because if the tables were turned and the contractor was a woman, we would be like, no, this is sexual harassment. You can't be doing this. I'm like, it's the same thing. So now I have a clause in, if you harass, discriminate me or any one of my subcontractors, then I have the right to automatically terminate your project. So everyone should act right.
Well, that's important though, right? And I feel like that's things that you want to keep in mind, because that could have happened and you could have just been like, oh, whatever, right? But being that you took what he said into mind and really changed that clause in the contract, I think just shows how much you care about not just your direct clients, but also your partners as well.
Yeah, I think it's important that, because eventually you get to work with the same people over and over again. And I want to be just as protective of them as I would hope that they would be of me.
Mm-hmm. How did you go about building your partners, like the contractors that you work with, or the interior design? I'm just making this up. Interior design networks that you build, right? I don't know what it's called, but you had to start from somewhere. Like, do you remember the days of just like building those relationships? What did you do?
It's a bit of a mix. Like, if I'm looking for a specific subcontractor that I haven't worked with before, I will always hit up a fellow interior design friend and be like, hey, I'm looking for such and such. Do you know anybody? If that works out, great. Sometimes, like, if you're looking for someone in particular, especially sometimes with contractors, it's always, girl, I haven't found anyone that I loved. So then you got to kind of hunt things down. So it's a lot of sharing of resources between me and my fellow interior design friends, especially the ones that are here in New Jersey, that I will tap a lot and like share resources with.
I went through this phase where I used to reply to random media passes from random shows. And I think it was like 2 years ago, I got into the architectural design show in New York. And you don't realize, like, like, I never realized how trades are so important, right? And for me, because I'm not in the industry, I'm like, this is so boring, right? But for the people that are in the industry, they were like in heaven. How important was it for you to start getting involved in the industry? You know, like in those type of events and other things as well?
I would say heavily, because you always want a dope vendor. Every client wants their house to be amazing. How are you going to find amazing things if you're not attending these trade shows, right? So you go to these shows, you're seeing everything that's new. You're seeing some of their best that they're selling year after year after year. So it's literally from these shows. And sometimes it's funny, like I even have vendors then reach out. I was on Open House NYC. I think that aired early this year. And I had a tile vendor reach out, but she was just so nice. I said, send me what you have. And she had in her catalog this amazing tile that I just felt like was so dope that it was just made by God's hands. I just loved it so much. And I recently used it in a project, and I had other designers literally sliding in my DMs like, where did you get that from? And I'm like, girl, don't you want to know? I'm going to tell you, just don't use it. Just don't use it the way that I use it. Like I'll share a vendor, but I'll only share a vendor with certain designers that I can trust that will not use something that I used, especially in the same way that I used it.
So are there politics? You know how you were saying there's politics in corporate worlds? Are there politics in the interior design world as well?
I would say yes. I would say within specific interior design organizations, it's very politicky. I would say, there's also the diversity issue that you see in corporate that still translate into this industry as well.
In what way? Like, have you ever had people diminish your value or not take you seriously because you were a Black woman? Or like what type of things did you encounter?
So how people always think that I'm taller than I actually am, but when they meet me in person, they're like, "Oh, snap, this girl is short." So I've always had that issue in corporate because I'm very petite and I'm a brown skinned girl. And I've always had kind of people, I would say, try to push my buttons or see how much they can get away with. But I learned in kind of corporate to have a thick skin and to just not care. So I just always kind of approached it like, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to show you what I can really do. So that always just kind of worked out for me in corporate, where people didn't judge me for how I looked. Well, the non-racist and the non-psychos. But they just trusted my work, and that became invaluable. Design isn't much different. A lot of the magazines that we see, Elle Decor, Architectural Digest, House Beautiful, is still extremely, extremely white. And you don't really see that many Black designers.
One of the things that I'm interested in, I know you love details. So you love details from when you were working in corporate and you brought that into your interior design business. How long have you been doing this full time? And what do you think has been like the hardest business aspect of running your business full time?
I've been doing it full time since 2014.
Okay.
And I would say the hardest aspect would be consistency.
And clients okay.
And clients. So if clients aren't knocking at your door all day, every day, so you don't have, this extended project queue of clients that, can get you through the next 6 months, the next year, the next 2 years, then that also has an impact to you financially. And I see that literally across the board. Like, this is an issue for every designer. But then again, it's an issue for every entrepreneur, anyone that's running a business. You have to make sure that you have clientele.
What's one way that you work to keep your stream, I guess, like your funnel full?
I do try to stay active on social media. I will say that lately, the last 3-4 months has definitely been a struggle because I've just been really, really busy with clients. So for the people who can juggle all their clients and be active on social media, like, bless you, because that is a talent I do not have.
Especially when you're you're a solopreneur, right? So it's not like you have a team of people, like someone's doing this, someone's doing that, right?
Yep, exactly. So because I'm my own accountant, I'm marketing, I'm advertising, I'm bookkeeping, I'm legal, I'm everything. It becomes hard trying to juggle it all. And finding an amazing team is not easy. Like finding people that you can rely on is much harder than I think it should be.
Yeah, and I feel like also when you're creative and especially in the design space, like you have to make sure the people that you're bringing on are aligned in the same values, right? Like you don't want to have somebody who's responsible for, I guess, I don't know how it works. So let's say they have to like pick the furniture, right? And then they're like, wait, why are you doing cheetah when we're doing, ostrich? I don't know. Like, it's like, I would be scared. Like, I feel like that, especially me, even as a podcaster, it's hard to build a team sometimes because you have to entrust your vision to somebody else and you have to believe in them that they'll believe in the vision. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's definitely a lot. This might have been like 3 years ago. Someone had reached out and they wanted to work with me. And I said, well, let's see how things work. I'll take you on as an intern. Maybe less than 2 weeks later, this person was to help me with an install. And the day before they said, oh, I took on this job, so I can't do it. And I'm just like, what? I confirmed this with you 2 weeks ago. My install is tomorrow. And you're telling me the day before that you can't do it. So automatically it was, I will never work with this person. And I had to do what I usually do. And that's when I call a friend. Luckily, I have a ton of friends who are also entrepreneurs. And she literally, and she's like a wedding planner, like an amazing wedding planner. She came and helped me because I just needed some muscle.
Mm. We're talking about interior design, and a lot of us, who are entrepreneurs, we may not even realize how important creating space for ourselves is, right? What advice would you have to entrepreneurs, anyone listening, to why they should, even if they can't invest a lot, but why taking the time to craft your space is so important for, I guess, professionally and personally?
It's almost like I would tell them think about the environment that they're in. When you ever walk into a room, you're like, I don't know what's wrong, but it doesn't feel good in here. It's basically like the same thing. A room that's not well decorated, a room that doesn't have good proportions, a room where, the art is hung too high or hung too low, or the TV is hung at a bar height and you feel like you're at Fridays to just watch TV. It's all those little things that don't make a room feel comfortable. How I approach design is always about how I want the person to feel. I want them to feel like their home is their oasis away from the rest of the world. So the goal is when they come in, no matter what your day was like, no matter if someone just pissed you off, when you come home, I want you to feel like everything is going to be okay. And that's how I approach it. And it really all boils down to environment. I remember I read something recently and they talked about, how Google really came up with this idea for like those open concept workspaces. And now they're saying, this is really a bad idea. And I was like, well, when you first did that, I could have told you a bad idea because that's not going to be comfortable for everybody. You're not giving anybody any personal space. You're forcing everyone to be in everyone else's face through the entire workday. That's a lot.
I never thought about that. Like, I've never been in a work environment where I had an open space, but I don't think I would have liked it, right? Because it's kind of like, you kind of just want to have something that belongs to you. Like, you're already at work for 8 hours. I don't want to be sitting on the couch all day and just having, whoever come sit next to me whenever they feel like it.
Yeah. And you don't necessarily want like, okay, if you're an analyst, you want them now sitting next to their vice president. That's going to be awkward. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there should be limits to how you treat people with levels, but you also have to think about it psychologically. And that's a lot of what you have to think about as a designer. Like a lot of times I call myself like a bootleg psychologist because I'm trying to figure out my client's personality and what I think would work best for them and why they're making the decisions that they make. Like, for instance, I hate floral patterns. I hate it with a passion. I will never
Not
use
even
it
a little bit?
I barely even like flowers. Like, okay. That's how much I hate floral patterns, but I know why. When I was growing up, my mother had this big, ugly brown floral sofa. And this thing was so ugly, it literally turned me off from all floral patterns. So whenever I have a client who says, oh, I don't like blue, or I only like this, I always ask the question like, okay, so you hate red. Why do you hate red? Did you have red in your house a lot growing up? Or does your mom hate red? Because I would bet the bank that 9 times out of 10, it ties to how they grew up, because that's how people make certain decisions based on what they experienced as a kid. So a lot of that is, helping my client break out of that comfort zone, realizing that that's not necessarily your style, or maybe it is your style, but let's figure out why you do or don't like it, and figuring out who you are and how you want to actually live in your space.
What's one easy tip that dream drivers can do to transform their space on a budget? Like if you want to just change things up, you can't necessarily work with the interior designer yet.
Art always makes a big difference. And when I tell you I will frame anything, I framed everything from gift wrap to fabric.
What? I've never heard of that gift wrap. I've heard of fabric though.
Yes, because it was something so random. Like I love home goods, but I also love a bargain. And in home goods, you'll always find the brand Nicole Miller Home and I forget the other one. But these two brands always have amazing gift wrap, and I always see them in home goods. And then I saw one day that really inspired me. I was like, I'm going to frame this. And then I realized like, this is the cheapest art I have ever made in my entire life, because all I needed was a frame, which you can get from anywhere. You probably have old frames at home. You can always buy one from Home Goods or wherever you choose. The gift wrap was only $2.99, so that just became really inexpensive art. And then I've also, from then I frame fabric a lot, especially like African wax print, right? Per yard, it's super inexpensive, but it's so bold. Even if you can't change around your furniture, you'd be surprised the change that art can make in a room.
Yeah, and I feel like it also is inspiring. If you just like you're feeling like, feeling like you're at a writer's block or something, you look up and you just see something like that can spark your neurons in your brains to get going again. So I am with you on that. As we wind down, Beth, one of the things I'm really impressed is like just how much press you've gotten over the past few years and how you've been able to work with different like TV networks. Like what was your key to getting press and building this momentum around your brand?
I can honestly say it was really relationship based. It was never a situation where, I was sending out press kits or something like that. It was always, a friend or someone in my network who said, oh, hey, you're looking for a Black designer in New Jersey. I have the perfect person. Let me refer you. And I have a really amazing tribe behind me, and they are always recommending or sending me things. So it really is all about the relationships that you build. And I would say networking is so important, but just making sure that you're networking from the mindset of giving and not always trying to receive.
So as we're, beginning of 2019, Beth, what are some challenges or what are some goals that you want to conquer in this new year?
One of the challenges that I would like to conquer is something that I have been procrastinating on for the last few years, and that's finally launching my own product line.
Oh, but you did in 2018, right? Your candle line.
Yes, that's a collaboration with Crown Candle Co., who actually was, someone I met through my network, someone I met through Kim. We were both, her bridesmaids. And that collaboration literally came out of their wedding. And that's us trying to just do something special for Kim. And I was just like, we should do a collaboration candle for the holidays. She was like, oh my God, let's do it. So I felt like that was me getting my feet wet. And the goal for 2019 is just have something that is 100% my brand. But I would definitely try to do collaborations with different companies in 2019 as well.
What would be the first product that you'd start with?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if I'm ready to share that yet.
Okay. I'll be watching on Instagram, like when she's going to drop her new furniture, her new...
I promise I will definitely let you know, but that's something I'm going keep in my bag for now.
I like that. And it's something that I'm learning too. And this is not a total tangent, but why is it so important as dream drivers, as we're talking about our goals and as we're setting new things for the new years? Why is it important to keep some things to yourself?
Sometimes you just have to allow things to come to fruition by yourself and just work through it and quietly just go through it. And part of that is because you don't want other people's opinions, especially like with friends, right? With certain things, you just want to work in silence and then come back and say, hey, I'm working on this. I'm about to drop it. What do you think? Because 9 times out of 10, I don't necessarily want an opinion. You know what I mean? I just like to do my own thing, but I'm also a very independent worker. So I may be that way to a fault. And because it's such a small world, you don't know, for instance, like with the Vibe Candle collaboration with Crown Candle Co., we almost treated it like we were dropping a Beyonce album. Like, very few people knew what we were working on. And that was only because it was like, we want to do this and we don't want anyone else to hear about it and then try to beat us to the punch. Because I'm sure we both know, like, there are some amazing business people out here, but there's also a lot of shady people as well. We just didn't want anyone to really know outside of our close circle what we were working on. I'm sure we both know that there are a lot of great business people, but there's also some shady business people. And the concern was we didn't want anyone to try to take the idea of what we were dropping for the holidays. So we were like, we're just going to treat this like a Beyonce album and just kind of surprise everybody. Because we were really excited about what we were doing and we didn't want anyone to get inspired by, the label, which has like this kind of mudcloth motif, the name of the scent, because we were working so hard on the background. I'm sure I was driving her crazy trying to settle on even a scent. So we just wanted to come out with it without worry that someone else was going to try to come during, before, or right after to try to beat us to the punch.
So how was that whole process? Like, did it excite you, or was there something that really was ignited within you during this collaboration process?
I think it was a mix of stress and excitement. I think the stress comes in because it's like, oh my God, suppose people hate the scent. Oh my God, suppose something goes wrong. And 1,000 things, kind of went wrong. Like, one of the initial candle vessels we wanted to use was sold out and on back order. And we knew we weren't going to get it until 2019. So it was like, well, we just had to find something else. So it's like all these, constantly testing labels, going back and forth with the graphic designer. The graphic designer is also a friend. So I had to tell her like all the time, please don't kill me. I love you. Just know I'm a perfectionist. But can you make these changes? Those types of things. But I'm really happy with what the outcome was. Like, I knew that the scent was it. And I said, Jolene, this is it. I can feel butterflies in my belly button. Like, that's how I know this is the right scent. It invigorated something in me.
And the design is dope. So that perfectionism definitely paid off.
Thank you.
So thinking about your dream driving journey, Beth, what do you think has been the biggest personal growth that you've experienced throughout this journey?
Ooh, I would say learning not to give up on myself, and being able to give myself credit, and that I should not be giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, which has definitely been my issue in the past.
Okay, so let's go into our lightning round, Beth. I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. And remember, we're sticking with our whole dreams and drive metaphor, okay?
Okay.
The first word is park.
Be still and reflect.
Reverse.
Ooh, girl, try again.
Neutral.
Stop and think it through and then move forward.
And drive.
Power through.
And if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So Beth, tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
You need thick skin, because the reality is that things are going to happen. Most things are going to happen that are outside of your control. And it shouldn't stop you. So you just have to keep going. I think a tribe is probably the most important item that someone should have in their toolkit. Someone to bounce ideas off of, people to inspire you, to help you. They basically become your support system of people that you can trust and count on. And for me, it's been priceless. And I would say the third thing is resources. Like, listen to podcasts, read some books, do whatever that's going to help you perfect your craft and propel you forward.
What are some of your favorite business resources or just resources that you use on the daily?
Oh, I am such an article monger.
Do you have multiple tabs open, or do you like keep them in like do you have a place where you save all your articles?
I heavily use the reading list on my Mac. And I'm one of those people with 1,000 tabs open at all times, and I'll keep it open until I read it.
Me too. Oh my God, kindred spirits.
Yeah. Heavily, I do that. And I love the bookmark feature on Facebook where you could just like save something. I use that a lot, but I read a lot of articles. I probably read at least 20 a day across not only my own industry, but just knowing what's going on in the world because everything is related. I listen to a lot of podcasts. You know, I'm an avid reader. I don't get to read as much as I would like, but I recently joined a book club, so that's definitely gotten me back in to the swing of things. And I would say networking conferences has been really, really helpful for me because hearing other people who are, even if they're not a designer, who are either in your industry or outside of your industry, like everyone has some knowledge to share, and you'd be surprised where you can find inspiration or a great idea may hit.
And I love that. I love sometimes getting outside, like even me going to that Architectural Digest show, like although I found it boring initially, I still learned so much, right? And it's like I was able to see how people do things in different industries, and you can learn anything. You can always learn a lesson wherever you go. Quick question though. What's a book that you've read recently that you really love?
Oh, wow. So I read The Hate You Give, which I really loved. And I just read The Perfect Find by Tia Williams. Finally, it's been on my book list forever.
Ooh,
and
I have to add those.
Yeah. And I'm sure we all know what The Hate You Give is. The Perfect Find is fiction, which is actually going to be a movie now. Going to be produced by Gabrielle Union. And I did download Becoming, oh God, probably like last week. I have not had a chance to dig into it yet, mostly out of fear. Because once I start to read a book, it consumes you? It consumes me, and I cannot do anything else. So I know I've had so much project related things and obligations to clients. I just don't want to get distracted. I'm really looking forward to reading that.
You deserve it. Can you tell our dream drivers where they can find you online if they want to connect with you, if they want to follow you on social media?
Yes, you can find me literally everywhere at Beth Diana Smith.
And do you use, is like Beth Diana like your first and middle name, or is it like your first name? You know how Caribbeans, they're like, Mary Cole or Mary, like... Just wondering.
It is actually my first and middle name because, I mean, Beth Smith it sounds very witness protection. And there's a lot of Beth Smiths in the world. And because my Diana being my middle name and my mother's middle name was Daphne, I like being able to use that D. So now it's like, there's not going to be that many Beth Diana Smith. So I just use my full government name for my business.
All right, well, I love that. And I think that's a lesson of differentiation, right? Sometimes you just gotta like change it up a bit so that you can stand out. Because whenever I think of you, like, it's funny because in my head, I just want to call you Beth Diana Smith all the time. And I'm like, that's not, like if I'm texting you, I can't be like, hey, Beth Diana Smith. It's kind of like Dr. Joy of Therapy for Black Girls. So we're all I'm in a mastermind with her. And we sometimes call her Dr. Joy when we realize, we could just call her Joy. She's not our doctor, but it's just funny because sometimes you just associate people's names with like their, with how they brand it online.
That's so funny because it is true. And some of my friends will be like Beth Diana Smith. And I'm just like, really?
All right. So that's a wrap for episode 191 with Beth. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. So I have a surprise. We are going to be bringing Beth back for episode 192, and we're going to be talking about the idea of being a creator of color. What have our experiences been as entrepreneurs, and what do you do when others are literally trying to block your ability to dream drive? How do you navigate past these blockages in your life? And being that it's Black History Month, I really think that this conversation will be one that you guys enjoy. Sometimes we don't feel like we have the space to talk about these topics and everything that we really go through on all types of levels. So stay tuned for episode 192. Make sure you listen to it. And I really can't wait to hear what you guys think. Remember, we are doing a book giveaway, so if you want to enter to win a copy of the autobiography of Gucci Mane, go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. That's dreamsanddrive.com/win. Please continue to share on social. If you enjoyed this episode, post it to your Instagram stories, post it to Facebook, Twitter, share the link with a friend via text message. Just help us grow the Dreams and Drive community. I love it when you guys are sharing, and I appreciate it so much. I also love it when you guys are leaving reviews and ratings on Apple Podcasts. So if you listen on an Apple device, please log into your iTunes or your Apple Podcasts, type in Dreams and Drive, click on ratings and review, and leave us something, and I will promise I will read your review on the next episode of Dreams and Drive. Show notes are available at dreamsanddrive.com, and if you want to join our weekly newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly insights delivered straight to your email inbox every week, go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. As always, keep dreaming, keep driving, and you're going to hear from Beth again in episode 192. Bye, guys.